Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Friday, November 14th, a little after 7 o'clock at night, and this is our daily recap for our YieldMax weekly paying funds, ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, LFGY, the Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income Fund, and SLTY, the Ultra Short Option Income Strategy Fund. A reminder, as always, I'm on X at ETF_Inspector. If you watched the video earlier, you probably already heard this, but I got carried away. I generally like to do my shout outs on the ULTY video because it has the most viewers. So even though I did it on the earlier video, I'm not sure that the people who gave watched that video. So I want to do my thank yous. So on these two individuals, Bill in Arizona and Damian Waller, both gave on Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a little website that helps you support people. Now, YouTube allows you to as well, but Buy Me a Coffee actually keeps a much smaller percentage. So that's why a lot of YouTubers use it. But Bill gave $10, and he wrote a very nice note. For some reason, when I shared it, it didn't put what he wrote, but it did put what Damien wrote. But Bill said some very kind words, so I appreciate that very much. And he gave $10, and I, of course, appreciate that as well. Thank you so much. And then Damien, this isn't Damien's first time giving. We've shouted him out before, but thank you. Damien gave $100, so very generous. Both of you guys, I appreciate it very much. All right, let's get into the video. We take a look. We were thinking we were going to have a green day finally. If you look in the middle of the day, right, we were well above the open, but for some reason we trailed off at the end and broke back into the negative there for the very end. Didn't mean to say broke back. That's weird. LFGY similarly, right, up decently, middle of the day, finishing out poorly. Can't imagine people were taking profits after a all week down week, but let's see, LFGY, why is this off the side of the screen? Down almost 14% on the week. Now we do know what about 50 cents of that is the drop from the distribution. So even if they were up 50 cents, it's still a very rough week. 13.8%, 9.6% on ULTY. I really wish they would put some protective puts into LFGY. And SLTY finished out their best week ever, up about 4.5%, even though they paid out, I think it was 50-something cents. I can't even remember now, in the middle of the week. So they're doing well lately for the last week, even for the last month, really. So if you can be up over the course of a month and have paid out 4 payments or more, then you're doing great, up 2%. Okay, we start with ULTY. We start with the trades. And first off, if you watched yesterday's video, we talked about some strategy changes that got announced on the Wednesday Wolf Spaces on X, where they said they were going to be adding some mega cap stocks into the fund to help try to stabilize the NAV. And so they did some more of that today, adding Alphabet or Google's Alphabet or Alphabet's Google, whichever way you want to say that. What's that? 200,000 shares or 55 million. I did see, I believe it was ETF Delta came up with the percentages that yesterday's purchases of these mega caps took up about 20% of the fund. So that's no small amount. And then obviously added even more today. And from there, then we're closing out what was left for this week. If you watched yesterday's video, almost everything did get closed out, so we don't have too much to talk about here. So Affirm paying 9 cents to close out, collecting $1.39 on the sale for next week, $374,000 credit. Coinbase actually cost money to close out, $117,000. That's because the sold put actually cost a bunch of money to close out. Now the purchased puts did all right, brought in a decent chunk, but having to pay to close out those $31 or $310 puts basically ruined the rest of it. Obviously, closing out the sold calls only cost 1 3 cents, and the selling of the new brought in $6.30. So if they hadn't sold those puts, then they wouldn't have had a loss there. But in any case, starting a collar strategy on Google, selling the calls, buying the puts, $318,000 credit. This was odd. They already bought and sold the max according to the shares that they purchased yesterday of Meta, but then they are doing some more. So nothing says they can't. It's just I guess it's almost similar to like a synthetic or something, but it's a collar without owning shares. So another 1,250 contracts brought in another 203,000. MP Materials Corp closeout brought in 352,000. You can see they're paying a nickel to close out the calls, almost a quarter to close out the puts, collecting $1.40, selling next week's call. They're not selling puts into next week on any of these that we're talking about. $352,000 credit. New Scale Power is just adjusting their puts. So they sold their 21s and bought 19s, collecting the difference, $437,000. And SoFi brought in a $1.1 million credit, closing out for this week, paying a penny and 3 pennies. And the protective puts were plenty enough to cover that, and collecting 75 cents on the sale for next week. Of course, you got to pay a little bit for those protective puts. They cost 14 cents. So all in all, excuse me, it was a $2.7 million credit on the options trading side of things today. This will be another week in a row where they did earn enough to pay out the distribution, but it will depend on any share sales that they made earlier in the week. If those ended up being a loss or a gain, that will determine if we end up in ROC territory or in income territory. There was a $9.5 million drop in value of shares within the fund. Now, normally we mark out anything that was a complete closeout in orange to signify under construction. Then we mark it orange over here. That way we don't have to talk about it. But it's Friday, so everything that was going to expire today is now closed and rolled, and we don't care about next week yet. That's what our Sunday video is for, so we can do the week look ahead. So we can keep this Friday video short and sweet, and we'll just go over the movement in everything. So I'd like to show the weighted move. I've explained it a bunch of times, so I don't think I'm going to keep explaining it each time in detail. But if you had the shares rather than ULTY, you would have lost 0.66% since you have it in ULTY instead. That's saying 0.36, but I thought this said 0.24. Yeah, so one of them's not updating correctly. Both showing the same closing price though, so that's the odd part. In any case, you lost less having ULTY than you would have if you had the shares of the underlying. Okay, Affirm was down 3.6%. Astera Labs down just a hair. What's that end up being? 13 cents, 0.09%. Negative money in cash and others. That'll all settle out by tomorrow. Just comes along with between buying of shares and paying out of distributions. Celsius down 2.7%. Cipher Mining down 3.8%. Coinbase was up just a hair, 0.3. Costco, this is one of the new mega caps that got added, down 0.23%. Circle Internet Group down 0.5%. Salesforce, another one of the new ones. Circle was new too, but they're not a mega cap. They're new and highly volatile. Salesforce was up 1.4%. CoreWeave was down 1.25%. Government obligation funds, they got $378 million over there. So we're going to start seeing probably a smaller amount in between the government funds and cash than we normally do, seeing as how we closed out all of our put spreads. But we do have a couple scenarios where I don't know if they're ratio spreads or if there's a different name for them, like in this case, where we basically we've got our normal collar strategy in the 3,000 sold calls, and the 3,000 of these purchased puts, but then we also have a put debit spread where we are, is that correct? Yeah, where we're selling puts at 237 and purchasing them at 227. So we've got a couple scenarios where that's the new thing. That's not my understanding of a ratio spread, but I could be wrong. Robinhood up 0.8%. Iron was the big loser today, down 4.6%. Lululemon up 0.6%. Meta Platforms down just a hair, 0.07%. But when it's $600 and some stock, it does end up being a little bit of change, about 43 cents. MP Materials Corp was the big winner, up 1.8%. Nvidia up 1.7%. Oklo down 3.9%. Palantir back up a little over 1%. Rocket Lab up 0.6%. NewScale Power down 2.85%. SoFi Technology down 2%. SoundHound down 0.4%, and Symbotic was down 2.25%. So overall, that's how you had a $9.5 million decrease in the value of the shares within the fund. Again, that doesn't equate to exactly what the fund would have moved, because every movement, this downward movement is going to make the cost to close out sold calls less, but it's going to increase the value of a purchase put. At the same time, it could actually even increase the cost to close out if you have a sold put. So there's so many changes and moving parts within it. So this is just a ballpark number to give you an idea, direction and magnitude, we'll say. Yesterday was a huge outflow. 28,225,000 shares sold out of the fund, bringing it under 400 million shares now. There's still 1.6, close to 1.7 billion in assets under management. Got a little bit oversold, but NAV 423 at the start of the day, closing at 421. You should have got your 6.26 cent per share distribution. Have been talking with some people that have Robinhood that it was delayed, so we're thinking it's possible because there was a holiday this week, but the holiday was earlier on, like Tuesday, so it really shouldn't be affecting a Thursday payer. But I did get quite a few of my payments this week delayed by a day, but not my YieldMax payments. Okay, next we go to LFGY. And again, crypto continues with their beating. But first off, they sold 21,000 shares of Robinhood, but they have about 93,000, I believe. So this was not a complete closeout by any means. It was just trimming. 91,000, I was wrong. And then from there, we've got a lot of miniature trades, right? Not complete closeouts or rolls. So it's just closing small amounts, so we don't go into them. But Bitmine Immersion was a complete roll to next week. It brought in 102,000, paying 9 cents and 89 cents to close out, and collecting $1.12 on the sale. Next up, iBit, closing that position, paying a penny, and then selling for $1.10. What else? Then they also closed out their deep in the money calls, sold them $44. I remember them buying them for about $54, so they lost on some of those. That's only 47 though. It's not the full 2,600, but $399,000 credit. MBTX, this was a big win. This has been going for a long time. They closed that put debit spread that expires the end of the year with a 255 strike price on the purchased puts. So they sold them today for over $10 million, close to $11 million. But they had to pay 1.7 to close out the other end of the spread. But in any case, locked in that profit, started a new spread where they are selling 155s and buying 195s. Am I saying that right? Yep, they're selling a 155 put and they're buying a 195. So they, yeah, that's still the same, right? So they're betting on it to go down. So as it drops towards 195, that will continue to increase. So I was wrong. They sold it for 10.8 million, and then they bought to close for 897,000. So even better, they basically locked in a $10 million win, but then had to put in some money to start the new put debit spread. That's going to be the 1.7 to go with the 445. That's why it's a debit spread, because in the beginning it's costing money, about 1.3 million. The last one similar, but obviously they closed that out for a big win. So they continue in this crypto bull fund to bet against MBTX. So I'm not too familiar with MBTX other than it being in this fund, but it seems like they like it a whole lot less than they like the rest of crypto. NU Holdings, 135,000 on the close and roll to next week. Closing out 16, selling 16. So it seems like they're kind of right in the perfect spot. NVIDIA, close and roll brought in 27,000. Closing 192.50s and 195s and selling 195s. Oof. No, they sold the, closed out the 192.50, sold 195s, but then closed out 7 of the ones that they had just purchased. So paying 4 cents, collecting 487, doing great. And that is it as far as complete closes and rolls. But the total of all the options trading actually brought in $9.2 million. That's mostly thanks to MBTX's $8.6 million. So a very nice day, a very nice options trading week for them. Not an overall nice week because their share values dropped every single day. 2.6 million today. All right, so as we look at the underlyings, bullish was down 6.1%. Bitmine Immersion down 5.8%. BitDeer down 5.3%. We've highlighted BitDeer like 3 times this week, and it still continues to make big drops. Let's see. BitDeer this week lost 53%. That's insanity. Hopefully they watch these videos. Please put protective puts in to LFGY. We'll take a 50% payout rather than the 65. Cash another 3.6 million. Cipher Mining down 3.8%. CleanSpark was the big loser, down 8.5% today. Coinbase up a third. Core Scientific down 1.5%. Circle Internet Group down 0.5%. iShares Ethereum Trust down 1%. Government obligation funds, they have 2.4 million. Galaxy Digital was down 3.3%. GameStop down 1.4%. Robinhood up 0.8. Hut 8 Corp was the big winner, up 2.5%. iBit down 3.8% today. Mara down 6.8%. I'm glad I did not have money in my account, because when they dropped back down around 15, that's where I like to sell puts on them, and I didn't have $1,500 to sell a put, so I didn't, and I stopped kind of paying attention to it. And my dad texted me today, said he bought some shares around 12, so $11.99 closing price. That's crazy. I got to get some money in there so I can sell a put now. Mercado Libre up 0.8, almost 0.9. Strategy was down another 4.2. Speaking of things that got crushed this week, where do we have it? MSTR this week down 19.5%, 35% drop over the past month, 45% drop over the last quarter. MSTR is getting crushed. NU Holdings up 1.5%, NVIDIA up 1.7%, Opera up 0.4%. PayPal Holdings was down 3.8%. This is the only one where they're selling a put spread. It's not working out for them. Riot Platforms up 0.5%. SharpLink Gaming down 0.9%, and Block down 2.95%. And that's how your shares dropped by $2.6 million in value. There's 192 million in assets under management, so they have fallen below the 200 million mark. People actually sold out of this fund yesterday, 75,000 shares, bringing it down to 6,650,000. NAV at the start of the day was 28.91. Share price dropped to 28.70 throughout the day. You should have got your 50.46 cents per share distribution yesterday. All right, and finally, SLTY, the only one that's had a good week. All right, when we take a look, they closed out of Advanced Micro Devices, AMD. So you should have seen the line out on the thumbnail. They closed out of AST Space Mobile, and they closed out of Lumentum. They started shorting into it. Riot, Target. I think Riot was already in there. They shorted some more, I believe. Let me double check. Yep, Riot's already in there. So they added more shorts on Riot. They started shorting into it, and Target added to their shorts on AppLovin, IonQ, Moderna, and Ouster. All right, from there, we just total up all the options trades. And overall, they actually had a positive day on trading options, $10,000 profit or credit, and that's going to go along with a $44,000 drop in the value of the shares. It is kind of odd to see those numbers and see it actually have a positive day, but the numbers don't always make sense. Now, as I say that, I realize my helper cell in Excel, there isn't one for SLTY. Excel doesn't recognize it, so I haven't put in SLTY's closing price yet. 38.94. They started the day at 38.81 cents, $38.81. Sorry. NAV with 600,000 shares and 23 million in assets under management. Should have got 58.31 cents per share distribution. And big picture, Nebius Group was their big loser, down 5.7%. That's a good thing for them because they're shorting them. They don't own any shares. They have sold 13,000 shares. So when they go to buy them back, they want that share price to be lower. When it drops, that increases the value of their fund. SanDisk went against them by being the big winner, up 4.3% with a $36,000 drop in the value of their shares. All right, we will go into all the positions in the week look ahead as well as next week's guesstimate. So that is all I have for you. Before we get to the dad joke, just want to thank everybody again. Appreciate all the support. And so here's your dad joke. I got to do a little accent on this one too. Why do the British pronounce it British? Because the Americans dumped the tea in Boston Harbor. Yeah, I should have done that one around 4th of July or something. But all right, thank you. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Catch you in the next video.